First of all, I'm not dating Kevin Costner. I've known Kevin Costner for probably 30 years, and I think if we haven't dated so far, we're probably not going to. A single moment on screen, the infamous leg-crossing scene, catapulted Sharon Stone into the ranks of Hollywood's greatest sex symbols. But just a few years later, she suddenly collapsed, suffering a brain hemorrhage that lasted for 9 days. With only a 1% chance of survival, a miracle happened. She lived. However, she lost everything: her memory, her ability to walk. Her husband divorced her, married someone else, and fought for custody of their child. Hollywood turned its back on her, reducing her to a punchline. From the pinnacle of fame to the depths of solitude, how did Sharon Stone rise from the ashes? This is a story that will undoubtedly stir your emotions. Sharon Stone was born on March 10, 1958, in Meadville, Pennsylvania, a small town where life revolved around factories and endless fields. She was the second of 4 siblings, growing up in a modest home where her father, Joseph Stone, worked as a factory laborer, while her mother, Dorothy, juggled roles as both an accountant and a homemaker. They weren't wealthy, but that was never the biggest problem. From an early age, Sharon was different. Before her first birthday, she could already walk and talk. Not long after, those around her recognized her astonishing intelligence. When her IQ was tested, she scored 154, a true genius. But that brilliance only pushed her further into a world of loneliness. She wasn't just the brightest student in class. She was also the strangest in the eyes of her peers. Friends teased her, calling her a bookworm and a weirdo. Sharon slowly learned to accept isolation, but the feeling of being an outsider never went away. The world outside shunned her, but the world inside her home was an even darker place. For years, Sharon lived in constant fear, haunted by a terrible secret she couldn't share with anyone. Her grandfather had abused her, turning her childhood into a long, painful existence filled with fear and anxiety. To survive, she buried the memories deep, forcing herself to forget as if it had never happened. But pain like that never disappears. It only lies dormant, waiting for the right moment to resurface. It wasn't until years later, through therapy, that the horrific memories came flooding back like a long-buried nightmare. In her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, Sharon revealed this chilling truth for the first time. Not only had she been abused, but she had also been threatened. If she ever spoke out, her grandfather would kill her. As a child, she had nowhere to run and no one to turn to. Every day was a battle for survival. Every night was a war against terror. When her grandfather died, Sharon's grandmother did something no one could have predicted. She locked the door and forced Sharon and her sister to stand and look at his lifeless body. No explanation, no tears. That moment marked the end of the nightmare, but not the end of the pain. The scars of her childhood were deepened further by her own father. Joseph Stone was a strict and disciplined man, so much so that he often lashed out at his children with harsh punishments. But at 14, Sharon decided she had endured enough. One day, as he yelled at her, she stood her ground, stared him in the eye, and asked, "Do you need to hit me again to feel like a man?" The words hit him like a shockwave. Joseph Stone froze and then broke down in tears. It was the first and last time Sharon ever saw her father that vulnerable. From that day forward, he never laid a hand on his children again. Her childhood was also haunted by another torment. At school, despite excelling academically, she was ridiculed by classmates. No one truly wanted to be her friend. Her looks didn't conform to conventional beauty standards. In the eyes of others, she was the ugly duckling. Then came another mark of fate, an accident that left a lasting impact on Sharon's life. At 14, while horseback riding, Sharon was thrown violently from the saddle when the panicked horse bolted forward and got caught in a clothesline. She crashed hard onto the ground, suffering a severe neck injury. The pain lingered for years, a constant reminder of how fragile life could be. But despite all the wounds, Sharon pushed forward with academic excellence. At 15, she graduated high school early and earned a scholarship to Edinburgh University. Yet the moment she set foot on campus, she realized she didn't belong there. She felt trapped in a life with no escape. Sharon Stone knew that if she wanted to change her life, she had to leave Meadville. But opportunities don't just appear. They come when you decide to seize them. Her first turning point came from a beauty pageant. Though she had never seen herself as a pageant girl, Sharon followed the advice of her family and friends and entered a local competition. She didn't expect much, but to her surprise, she won. That title wasn't just a meaningless sash, it was her ticket out of the small town. Shortly after, she received an offer to work as a model in New York. Sharon quickly realized that the fashion industry was a brutal world. She signed with Ford Modeling Agency and appeared in various magazines, but the job left her unfulfilled. Standing in front of the camera, dressed in glamorous outfits, posing without speaking or expressing emotions, it felt empty. She didn't just want to be a model, she wanted more. Acting became her new dream, but Hollywood wasn't welcoming. As she attended casting calls, rejection after rejection piled up. She was told she wasn't sexy enough, that she lacked the sultry allure needed for a leading lady. To directors at the time, Sharon Stone was just a small-town girl, with sharp features, missing the softness required to be a silver screen beauty. But if Hollywood was going to dismiss her for that, she would find her own way to prove herself. Her first break in film came in 1980 when she landed a minor role in Stardust Memories, directed by the legendary Woody Allen. It was just a fleeting appearance. No lines, nothing memorable. But for Sharon, it was a milestone. She had set foot in the industry she longed to be part of. In the following years, she continued to chase opportunities, taking roles in Deadly Blessing, 1981, and Irreconcilable Differences, 1984. Even though she shared the screen with bigger stars, she remained an unremarkable name in the entertainment industry. In 1992, Basic Instinct completely transformed Sharon Stone's life in ways she never anticipated. Until then, she had been just a mid-tier actress, never truly regarded as a Hollywood star. But when she took on the role of Catherine Trammell, a mysterious, seductive, and cunning woman, everything changed overnight. Sharon Stone went from an unknown actress to a global sex symbol. The scene that shook the world wasn't a shocking plot twist or razor-sharp dialogue. It was the most controversial leg-crossing moment in cinematic history. In a cramped interrogation room, Catherine Trammell sat calmly facing a group of detectives trying to pin a crime on her. With piercing eyes and a defiant smirk, she skillfully dodged their questions, turning the interrogation into a tense battle of wits. But the moment that went beyond the script was when Sharon Stone casually lifted her leg and crossed it in the opposite direction. The shot lasted only a few seconds, yet set Hollywood on fire. The scene was replayed endlessly, becoming one of the most paused moments in film history. It was later voted the sexiest leg-crossing moment on screen in an AV poll. Sharon Stone's name skyrocketed overnight, not because of her acting, but because of an image she hadn't even realized she had created. After the film's release, Sharon Stone claimed she had been deceived into filming the scene. She recalled that, before shooting, director Paul Verhoeven had asked her to remove her underwear, explaining that the white fabric reflected light unnaturally on camera. He assured her that only a hint of light reflection would be visible and that nothing explicit would be shown. Sharon trusted the director, but when the test screening took place, she was in shock. The scene had revealed far more than she had been led to believe. Feeling betrayed, she slapped Paul Verhoeven across the face at the screening and immediately called her lawyer, demanding the scene be cut. But that never happened. The director insisted that the shot had been contractually approved and the film could not be altered. Verhoeven later denied all allegations, claiming that Sharon Stone knew exactly what was happening during the shoot. The truth? Only those involved will ever truly know. What is certain is that whether Sharon consented or not, that one scene became the defining moment of her career, and a shadow she could never escape. Following Basic Instinct, Sharon Stone became one of the most famous actresses in the world, but fame didn't come the way she had hoped. She soon realized that Hollywood saw her through only one lens, as a sex symbol. Sharon knew that if she wanted to be recognized as a serious actress, she had to create her own opportunities. She began seeking out roles with greater depth, characters that demanded more than just seduction. Then came Casino, 1995, the film that earned her the first Oscar nomination of her career. In Casino, Sharon played Ginger McKenna, a woman who was not only alluring, but also deeply complex and tragic. This was not a role that relied on looks alone, but one that required emotional depth, psychological nuance, and real acting skills. Finally, Hollywood had to acknowledge that Sharon Stone was more than just a pretty face. She had true talent, but to fully break free from her image, she needed more than just one film. Lovelace, 2013, marked a significant turning point as she took on the role of Linda Lovelace's strict, unsympathetic mother, a character completely opposite to Catherine Tremell. Gone were the glamorous dresses and seductive gazes. Sharon Stone appeared on screen as an entirely different person, hardened, cold, and severe. This was her way of proving she could transform into any character. She continued to challenge herself in television. In Law & Order, she played a tough, decisive prosecutor, once again shedding the sexy persona that had haunted her career for years. As her career began to flourish, Sharon Stone also reached another significant milestone in her life: marriage. On August 18, 1984, she married Michael Greenberg, a well-known television producer. They met on the set of The Vegas Strip War, where Greenberg worked as a producer while Sharon starred in the film. Their relationship quickly developed, and before long they decided to tie the knot. At first, it seemed like the perfect union, two people working in the same industry, sharing the same ambitions. However, the glamour of Hollywood changed everything. After 3 years together, they separated on January 20th, 1987. Although their marriage had ended, it took another 3 years for the divorce to be finalized. The exact reason for their breakup was never publicly disclosed, but many speculated that Sharon Stone, whose career was rapidly taking off, was unwilling to be tied down by married life. Michael Greenberg was an accomplished producer known for successful projects like MacGyver and Stargate SG-1. However, as Sharon's star continued to rise in Hollywood, the gap between their careers may have widened. Rumors swirled that Sharon prioritized her professional ambitions over her marriage and refused to let anything hold her back, as major opportunities kept coming her way. Following the divorce, Greenberg moved on with his life and career, eventually dating Nikki Smook and having 2 children with her. Meanwhile, Sharon continued forging her own path, a path filled with unexpected turmoil. In 1992, as Basic Instinct catapulted Sharon Stone to the height of fame, she entered a new relationship with country music star Dwight Yoakam, a glamorous Hollywood actress and a rugged Western musician. Their pairing instantly became a media sensation. They made a striking appearance together at the 1992 Academy Awards, with Sharon donning an elegant blue velvet outfit, while Dwight, of course, sported his signature cowboy hat beneath the glitzy surface. Their relationship unraveled quickly, becoming one of Sharon Stone's biggest regrets. No one knows exactly what drew Sharon to Dwight in the first place, but according to multiple sources, the romance soon turned into a nightmare. Rumors circulated that Sharon was overly jealous and controlling, making Dwight feel suffocated. Though neither of them ever publicly confirmed these speculations, the truth was undeniable. They parted ways under tense circumstances, leaving behind no respect for one another. Years later, when reflecting on the relationship, Sharon Stone made no attempt to hide her disdain. She once declared, "Dating Dwight was the biggest mistake of my life." But that wasn't even her most shocking statement. In another instance, when asked about her romantic experience with Dwight, she delivered a brutal remark. "Kissing Dwight was like eating a dirt sandwich." This wasn't just a casual joke, it was an official statement in a 1995 interview with the Orlando Sentinel. When pressed about whether she truly compared Dwight's kiss to a filthy sandwich, Sharon didn't hesitate. Yes, I said it." That response alone spoke volumes about the level of regret she harbored for the relationship. As for Dwight Yoakam, he chose to remain silent. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, when asked about Sharon, his only response was, "I had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship and was emotionally clumsy. We dated." A short, detached answer, no explanation, no emotion, as if their relationship had been nothing worth remembering. While neither of them openly discussed the true reasons behind their split, their reactions made one thing clear. This was a chapter they both wanted to bury in the past. Sharon Stone moved on with her single life, even attempting to find love through the dating app Bumble in later years. Meanwhile, Dwight Yoakam found stability. In 2020, he married photographer Emily Joyce after a decade-long relationship. It's clear that both Sharon Stone and Dwight Yoakam have long since moved on. But given the way they responded to their failed romance, especially Sharon's harsh words, it seems this wasn't just another breakup. It was a chapter in her life filled with regret. Sadly, it wouldn't be the last time Sharon Stone endured relationships that brought her more pain than happiness. Right after parting ways with Dwight Yoakam, Sharon Stone quickly entered a new relationship with film producer William J. McDonald. This time it wasn't just dating. They got engaged, seemingly ready to take the next step toward marriage. But while this relationship appeared to be a more solid chapter in Sharon's love life, its ending was no less turbulent. Sharon and William met in 1993 while working on the film Sliver, where McDonald was one of the producers. However, the problem wasn't how their romance blossomed, but when it did. When he met Sharon, William McDonald was still in a marriage that had only lasted 5 months with his wife Naomi Barker. This immediately turned Sharon and William's relationship into a scandal, raising the inevitable question, was this true love, or just an affair disguised as something legitimate? It didn't take long for William to leave his wife for Sharon and publicly announce their relationship. When news of their engagement broke, not everyone was celebrating, especially not McDonald's ex-wife, Naomi. McDonald didn't stay silent. Instead, she openly called Sharon Stone a homewrecker. In an interview on the tabloid show A Current Affair, Naomi bitterly stated, "She's heartless and cruel. Sharon Stone stole my dream. She stole my husband." Her accusations sparked a media storm, putting Sharon at the center of public scrutiny. Under mounting pressure, Sharon Stone's spokesperson defended her, insisting that the actress had not been involved with McDonald until after he filed for divorce. However, the explanation wasn't very convincing given how quickly everything happened, from the moment McDonald left his wife to his engagement with Sharon. People had plenty of reasons to be skeptical, but perhaps Sharon wasn't the only one with motives in this relationship. William McDonald wasn't just an ordinary producer. He understood the power of fame. Being involved with the hottest Hollywood star at the time could have been a way to elevate. His career, or at the very least, gain public attention. Did he truly love Sharon, or was he simply leveraging her fame to push himself into the limelight? There was no concrete proof, but when a man leaves his wife after just 5 months of marriage to get engaged to a major movie star, it's hard not to question his true intentions. Whatever the reason behind their relationship, it didn't last long. Less than a year after their engagement, Sharon and William broke up in 1994. And if the way they got together was controversial, their breakup was even more bitter. Sharon Stone not only called off the engagement, but also returned the engagement ring via FedEx, a cold, decisive move. One that reeked of finality, as if she wanted to erase every trace of this chapter from her life. The media wasted no time capitalizing on the drama. The way Sharon returned the ring was seen as a powerful statement, one that showed she had no regrets. Hollywood tabloids buzzed with speculation. Had Sharon realized she was being used? Or was she the one who chose to walk away, having recognized that this wasn't the love she had hoped for? As for William J. McDonald, he continued working in the film industry, but his name was no longer linked to Sharon Stone. And as for Sharon, after yet another highly publicized relationship, she moved on once more in search of real love. But, sadly, the challenges in her romantic life were far from over. By the time Sharon Stone turned 40, it seemed she had everything. She was one of Hollywood's most powerful actresses with an illustrious career, and now she had found love with Phil Bronstein, the executive editor of the San Francisco Examiner, who later led the San Francisco Chronicle. They met in the late 1990s, and Phil seemed like the perfect match for Sharon. He was intelligent, successful, handsome, and carried the allure of a powerful man. The two quickly became one of Hollywood's golden couples, attracting media attention whenever they appeared together. On February 14, 1998, they married in a lavish fairy tale-like wedding. The press dubbed it a dream romance. And for Sharon, it marked a new chapter, the beginning of the family happiness she had always longed for. But behind the glamorous facade, she endured both physical and emotional agony throughout her years with Bronstein. Sharon had always wanted to have a biological child, but her body betrayed her. She suffered from an autoimmune disease and endometriosis, making it impossible for her to carry a pregnancy to term. Over the years, she endured 9 miscarriages. Each pregnancy brought a spark of hope, only to end in blood and tears. She went through excruciating pain, countless sleepless nights spent crying in silence, moments of joy at seeing the red lines on a pregnancy test, only to watch it all slip away. She held on to hope, but each loss shattered her a little more. Eventually, Sharon and Phil decided to adopt. In 2000, they welcomed Roan Joseph Bronstein, a beautiful baby boy with big round eyes. He became the single brightest light in Sharon's life at that time. From the outside, it looked like Sharon Stone had found her happy ending, a small but perfect family, a successful husband and a son she adored. But fate wouldn't allow her to hold on to that happiness for long. It all began with what seemed like a harmless sign during a trip to Milan, Italy. While attending a prestigious fashion show, Sharon Stone was suddenly struck by a splitting headache, like a blow straight to the skull. A terrifying pressure surged from the base of her neck, spreading across her head as if an invisible force was crushing her skull from within. No one thought it was anything serious, a headache, perhaps just stress, the blinding stage lights, or an exhausting schedule, but then everything became hazy. The space around her wavered, voices grew distant, and she staggered forward before collapsing right in the middle of the runway. The entire room erupted into chaos. Medical staff rushed toward her, voices called out, but Sharon Stone couldn't respond, couldn't move, couldn't control her own body. Everything went dark. A few days later, back in the US, the real nightmare began. One evening while at home, an excruciating pain struck without warning, like a bolt of lightning tearing through her body. No prelude, no sign of caution, just an unrelenting storm inside her skull that sent her flying backward off the sofa, her head slamming into the table before she collapsed onto the floor. It felt as if Zeus himself had hurled a thunderbolt at her. Every nerve in her body screamed in agony, as if her brain was being ripped apart from the inside. She struggled to breathe, to call for help, but no sound escaped her throat. When she opened her eyes, a strange sight greeted her. Flashing ceiling lights and blurry figures moving frantically around her. She was lying on a stretcher being wheeled down a cold hospital corridor, the wheels screeching against the floor. No one was telling her what was happening. She couldn't remember anything. It felt as if her memory had been wiped clean. Everything was fragmented. Her mind was clouded in a dense fog. Her films, the faces she once knew, all shattered into pieces she couldn't put back together. Sharon had been suffering from a brain hemorrhage for 9 days. During that time, blood silently flooded her back, head, face, and spine, each passing second pulling her closer to death. The pain was indescribable. It wasn't just pain. It was destruction, torment, pure agony from within. Everything spiraled out of control. Doctors debated right in front of her. Voices rushed and tense as they spoke of brain surgery, of the possibility of removing part of her skull, of unimaginable risks. But no one told her if she would survive the operation. Beside her lay another patient, a stranger, also fighting for his life. And then right before Sharon's eyes, he took his last breath. The sight seared into her memory, an unshakable nightmare. She saw death looming over her and felt its presence so close she knew she could be next. In that moment, one thought surfaced: her mother. With the last ounce of strength left in her fading voice, she whispered into the phone, "Mom, I'm having a brain hemorrhage." On the other end, her mother responded with just 4 words, "I'm coming, I love you." The call ended, and Sharon Stone knew she was standing at the final threshold between life and death. Amidst the unbearable pain, as everything blurred around her, she saw the light. It wasn't like the sterile glow of hospital lights. It was warmer, more radiant, more peaceful. A soothing sensation washed over her, as if she were being led somewhere else. The pain faded, the fear disappeared. But then something held her back. In that hazy glow, a familiar image appeared. Her little son, Rowan. He looked at her with eyes filled with innocence, too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to know that he needed his mother. She couldn't leave. She wouldn't leave her son behind. When Sharon Stone opened her eyes after the horrifying nightmare, she thought she had defeated death. But she had no idea that the real battle was only just beginning. She left the hospital frail, pale, and so emaciated that she barely recognized herself in the mirror. 18% of her body mass was gone. Her right leg dragged behind her, too weak to support her weight, and her hands trembled so violently that she couldn't even write her own name. She lost the ability to read and stuttered uncontrollably. She couldn't even control her own speech. Her memory was nearly wiped clean. Every day became a chaotic cycle of forgetting everything and desperately trying to relearn it all from scratch. She sought help, but there were no recovery programs for what she was going through. There was no therapy to help her walk normally again, no treatment to stop her from stuttering, and no insurance to cover the years of rehabilitation she would need. But she refused to give up. Day by day, Sharon Stone retrained herself. She learned to write her name from zero, practiced speaking in front of a mirror, one painstaking syllable at a time, battling her own brain to reclaim what had been taken from her. She spoke with neurologists, searching for ways to stimulate her mind, strengthening every muscle, every reflex, no matter how small. She fought for herself hour by hour, second by second. She recalled a strange encounter with a Buddhist monk who told her, "You have been reincarnated into your own body." That sentence haunted her. She truly felt as if she had died and been reborn, but as a completely different person. Her sense of smell, sight and touch had all changed. For years, she couldn't read books. She couldn't process the world the way she once had. It took 7 long years for Sharon Stone to fully recover, but just as she was starting to rise again, life delivered another brutal blow. Lying in her hospital bed, Sharon Stone believed she still had a family waiting for her. Return. She trusted that Phil Bronstein, the man she had married in 1998, would stand by her side, holding her hand through the darkest days of her life. She was wrong. The moment she returned home, still frail and weak, she was hit with devastating news. Phil Bronstein had filed for divorce. The shock was too much to bear. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. While she was relearning how to walk, talk, and write, the man she once trusted had already moved on to another woman. And it didn't stop there. He sued her for full custody of their son. Sharon couldn't comprehend how the husband who had vowed to love her through sickness and hardship was now the one pushing her deeper into despair. But she was too weak to fight in court. She was too ill, too exhausted to endure the hearings, too drained to battle against an army of lawyers, and in the end, she lost everything. The court ruled that Rowan Joseph Bronstein, the son she had fought so hard to have, would primarily live with Bronstein. Sharon was granted only limited visitation rights. She was shattered in court. The judge asked Rowan, "Do you know your mother starred in an adult-rated film?" That question stabbed straight into Sharon's heart. She was deemed an unfit mother because of a film she had made a decade ago. A mere 16th of a second of nudity and basic instinct had cost her her child. She couldn't believe that in a world where nudity on television had become normalized, she was still being punished for a scene from years past. And it didn't end there. The judge further accused her of being overly sensitive about Rowan's health, citing an absurd claim that she had suggested Botox injections for his feet to prevent odor, a baseless allegation that Sharon vehemently denied. But it was too late. In 2008, she lost the custody battle. Rowan remained with Bronstein, and Sharon was pushed out of her own son's life. In just a few short years, the woman who once had everything had lost her husband, her child, her family. But the nightmare still wasn't over. While drowning in grief over losing her son, she discovered her bank account was empty. The $18 million she had spent a lifetime earning was gone. Her refrigerator, her phone, everything was under someone else's name. Sharon Stone was left with nothing. Now she had only one choice: to be destroyed forever or rise and take it all back. If losing custody of her son was the greatest emotional pain of Sharon Stone's life, then being cast aside by Hollywood was the final blow to her career. Once an A-list actress, Sharon suddenly became a name no one wanted to mention. Hollywood has no place for you anymore, she soon realized. No one was waiting for her return. The flood of film offers, the lucrative contracts that once lined up at her, or all vanished without a trace. The directors and producers who had once pursued her, who had once called her their muse, wanted nothing to do with her anymore. And when she tried to seek out new opportunities, she was met with cold, unyielding rejections. "You're no longer a box office draw. You're too old to be a leading lady. We need a younger face." Not only was she denied opportunities, but her entire career seemed to be crumbling around her. Sharon became the subject of ridicule among the media and her peers. Tabloids mocked her downfall, branding her as a washed-up sex symbol, a has-been star whose light had faded. Worse yet, the few roles she was offered were forgettable and insignificant, doing nothing to revive her career. Desperate to stay relevant, Sharon accepted whatever scripts came her way, but that only pushed her deeper into the list of Hollywood failures. Catwoman, 2004, was a box office disaster, torn apart by critics. Sharon's villainous role was deemed weak and ridiculous. Basic Instinct 2, 2006, was a desperate attempt to recapture past glory, but it was a monumental failure. The film was ridiculed as pointless and outdated, becoming one of the biggest flops of the decade. Bobby, 2006, was a well-received film, but her role was too small to leave any meaningful impact on her career. In the years that followed, none of her films truly succeeded, though she continued to work on smaller projects. Sharon Stone was no longer a star. "I want my career back," she admitted in an interview with The Times. "I still haven't regained my acting career. I desperately want to work again as an actress, not just playing weak, ridiculous, meaningless roles." She had done everything to reclaim her place in the industry, yet Hollywood had slammed the door shut in her face. "I was shocked that I couldn't continue to work well," she said. "I did everything I could to give my best." After years of fighting to reclaim herself, Sharon Stone realized one thing. Hollywood may have abandoned her, but she would never abandon herself. She found a new path, not on the silver screen, but in art. She began showcasing her paintings in a San Francisco gallery, proving that she didn't need Hollywood to shine. She also dedicated herself to helping women, particularly those marginalized and wounded by society. From an outcast actress, Sharon Stone reinvented herself as an inspiration, but no matter how strong she became, there was one lingering ache she couldn't shake. "I truly want to get back what I once had. I want my real career back. I desperately want to reclaim my life." Can Sharon Stone make Hollywood see her again? That answer is yet to be written. But one thing is certain, she has never stopped hoping. Sharon Stone once stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood, then was cast into the depths of despair. She lost everything, her health, her fame, her family, her career. But like a phoenix, she refused to be buried in the ashes of her past. She didn't beg Hollywood for a second chance. She didn't seek pity. She rebuilt herself. The first years after her stroke were a battle for survival. No one helped her. No one believed she could come back. Hollywood turned its back. The public forgot her. But she never allowed herself to surrender. Step by step, she relearned how to walk, how to speak, how to write, fighting tirelessly to reclaim what was taken from her. 7 long, agonizing years passed, but when she finally stood back up, she was stronger than ever. Sharon Stone's rebirth was not just for herself. She rebuilt her family, adopting 2 more sons, Laird Vaughn and Quinn Kelly. Once a mother who had been stripped of her child, she became a steadfast pillar for 3. She no longer needed Hollywood's validation, nor did she need the title of sex symbol to define her. She was a mother, a warrior, a survivor, and she didn't stop there. Sharon Stone used her fame to change the world. When Hollywood was ready to discard her, she used her voice for something greater. She became one of the most prominent advocates in the fight against HIV/AIDS, raising over $34 million for medical research. She built schools, supported homeless children, and fought for those who had no voice. But standing up for others came with a price. Speaking out for HIV/AIDS awareness cost her film deals. Hollywood branded her as difficult, but this time she no longer needed their approval. She had once fought for her own survival. Now she fought to make the world better. Hollywood once saw Sharon Stone as nothing more than a sex symbol, then tossed her aside when no longer needed. But they forgot one thing. She was never just a symbol. She was a fighter. Sharon Stone had once lost everything, but now she no longer needed to reclaim what was lost because she had been reborn, stronger, more purposeful, and more powerful than ever. Sharon Stone is no longer the woman abandoned by Hollywood or just a relic of a past sex symbol. At 67, Sharon Stone has returned to the screen with a new identity, deeper, stronger, and no longer confined to the image that once defined her. After all the glory, losses, and falls, she has found a new chapter in life, one of independence, art, and true peace. In 2024, Sharon made her comeback with the film What About Love, where she played Linda Tarleton. But she didn't stop there. In 2025, she will appear in two major projects, Nobody 2 as Lena and In Memoriam as Vicky, both currently in post-production. These projects not only showcase her persistence in the film industry, but also prove that Hollywood can't ignore Sharon. Stone forever, however, acting is no longer her sole focus. Painting has become an essential part of her life in recent years. Her works have been exhibited in major cities such as San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Berlin. Soon, she will hold an exhibition at Arapakis in Rome, one of the most prestigious art venues in the world. If once upon a time she used her body and expressions to create cinematic masterpieces,